Hello and welcome back to the Facts of Facts, the only Facts of Life podcast that is here for the return of the Finger Bowl.
Oh yes, a lot of finger bowl jokes in this one.
Yeah, it's like going back to their roots.
Yeah.
Haven't heard about a finger bowl. This is the only place I've ever heard about a finger bowl. Is this show, but many, many times.
I feel like that's a go-to joke actually for especially just for anyone who drinking finger bowl has always been it's, that's how you know they're from the Bronx if they drink out of the finger bowl.
I think that is thanks to the Facts of Life.
Well, no. So, did you see Crazy Rich Asians?
I did. It did not.
I did. No. Okay.
See, when it came out, I was in Belgium in a golfing hotel with severe food poisoning, and the only channel that we seemed to get in that hotel that spoke English was just like a 20-minute presentation about Crazy Rich Asians, and it was on a loop. And in my head, I was like, "Yes, I've seen it." And then I remembered, no, actually, I've not seen that movie.
I just saw the channel in Belgium that was just recapping it 24 hours a day.
It was like interviews with the cast about how proud they were, the director,
Aquafina.
it was a weird time in my life.
And the only reason I bring it up is because there's a finger bowl joke in that film, and
inspired by probably
the Facts of Life. Yeah, of course.
I'm
also so inspired by this episode. I'm planning on using my finger bowls this evening.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just to get my fingers wet.
Yeah, it's good to keep them moist this way because you use a paper journal to keep your notes in. So rather than you just flip.
Yes.
So all right. So today we are discussing Just My Bill, which I'm now realizing I'm not sure. I guess because his name is Bill.
Yeah, so I was describing this episode. I gave a very brief log line to my husband before we started this. And I said, so the premise, the only plot we have is that Joe has a new boyfriend.
Excuse me, there's a thief on the loose. There is a hot auction where all the milk cans are up for grabs. There's a lot of plots going on, but go on.
Okay. Anyway, so I was like, so Joe has a new boyfriend, and it inspires, of course, hostility from her and, her usual bullshit of feeling insecure immediately as soon as one little, one tiny hiccup, which happens to be the fact that he's incredibly rich, which is not a hiccup at all. But in any case, I was saying, so she gets this new boyfriend and his name is Bill Smith. And Peter said, that sounds like a phony name. Like, that sounds like, is he grifting? Is he a grifter? Is he lying to her? And I was like, no.
He is. He's lying to her. He's not a grifter, but he's lying to her.
Yeah, because his actual name is William Ogden Smith IV. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's so many William Ogden Smiths that I'm sure all the Warner women have banged over the years at some point.
The thing is, I looked it up. No, there are none. There's a William Smith and then a Bob Ogden who had some sort of connection at one point. I think they were criminals, actually. But, there's no William Ogden Smith of any. I mean, maybe there is. If there is one who's listening to this podcast, please reach out.
Well, I would say kudos then to our writers Lou and Diane Messina because they came up with a name that sounds incredibly rich and yet nobody has used it yet. So they're geniuses. These are the people, by the way. We're directed by Azad Khalada as per usual. These are the people, Lou and Diane Messina, who were responsible for last year's notorious A Different Drummer episode.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the less said about that one, the better, probably.
so funny about that is that that also has to do with one of the girls getting a new boyfriend.
Yes.
And I feel as though the network was like, okay, so this married, I guess I assume that they're a married couple.
Yes.
Maybe they're brother and sister. Who knows?
No, they're married. Were.
That they were like, so that's their thing. They bring in the boyfriends. So the network note for last season was maybe we don't have Blair date someone who is developmentally different. So, and
It's
these
like a good note.
These two, yeah, it's a great note. And these two people were like, okay, so what's the opposite of developmentally different? Rich. Let's just make him rich.
I mean, the richest. He's the catch of the century.
Yes.
Which is, the difference that they went the polar opposite. This is their second and final Facts of Life.
Wow.
For anyone looking for a reminder on their career, they started on House Calls, then Harper Valley PTA, the Jeffersons, Archie Bunker's Place, then this, then Webster, and then they went into drama, spending much of the late 80s at Knott's Landing, writing 20 episodes there. Then the two split. Lou stopped working. He might have died. I don't know. It was unclear. But Diane remarried and added a Stanley hyphenate.
Is this the couple that I discussed last season where I was like, I'm pretty sure she murdered him?
I think yes. So without him, she did dramas like Homefront, Port Charles, Early Edition, That's Life, Judging Amy, Army Wives. They're all like the same show to me.
Yes. Except the thing about, I will say, the thing that distinguishes Early Edition is the fact that there's a really good cat on it.
I've never seen Early Edition, but I am a Kyle Chandler fan, and you've told me about this good cat. I do feel like I should have, at the beginning of the pandemic, picked up on the Early Edition, but maybe released from the finger bowls.
Here, my fingers, my clean fingers. No, here's why Early Edition is, a very silly, enjoyable, I believe CBS, comedy.
It is CBS. I believe it was an hour long, though.
Yeah, it was an hour long because it was like every week was like a new conundrum that Kyle Chandler had to deal with because he gets the newspaper before an event happens, so he has to
he gets the really early edition.
Exactly. But here's why it's whimsical and cute. It's not a dog that delivers the newspaper, it's a cat.
I feel like you've tried to get me to watch this show before, but I feel like that's the first time you've actually sold me.
Listen, now I can rest easy.
So I do think that you might be onto something about their, like, maybe it's Diane's love for love, because she writes with her husband, and then later on she writes with her new husband, James Stanley. She wrote 2018's Christmas on Holly Lane. I know you're a fan of Christmas movies.
Yes.
She wrote that with her husband. Is that a classic?
It sounds like it. It should be a modern day classic.
And and before we get into this episode,
yes,
we got some new opening credits to talk about.
Yeah, this is something that we need to get the elephant out of the room. We need to get the Pamela Adlon out of the room.
Yeah, we need to get the seagull out of the room.
Yes.
This is the first credits that open up and show Edna's edibles in the credits. That's the background of your title. And they're totally revamped credits. There's a lot of like looking at the camera and shaking your head and stuff like that. They got like every shot where they're almost looking at the camera and used it, but nothing was like made for the credits, which I appreciate. And then all of a sudden, without ever meeting her, there's Pamela Segal in the credits, also known as Pamela Adlon to those of us living in 2021.
Yes. That's the thing. So I wrote the first thing I wrote down was new opening credits. Everyone seems so elderly, except for this new tiny urchin who shows up. And again, it's not her. She's not billed as Pamela Adlon. She's billed as Pamela Segal. So, and she also
might be
Segal, whatever. But she is, she's sporting a truly shocking hairdo. It's
sexy.
I believe, it looks as though the mother from the Brady Bunch.
Okay.
But
Florence Henderson.
Florence Henderson. It was a Florence Henderson, business in the front, party in the back. Mullet.
I mean, nobody quite does it like Florence Henderson. Like, the party in the back is like one of the most legendary parties that anyone's ever been to.
Because it's like a dangerous slide.
It's a dangerous slide. It's like a chic curtain to keep out, secrets. I don't know. It's everything about that haircut. And yeah.
To keep the secrets in, Dominik, not to keep them out.
Yeah, you're right. That is what I meant to say. It's been a long day already. And then our opening credits end with the iconic shot of everybody making the thumbs up for Blair to live with them. And that stays for quite a while in the opening credits. Like, the credits will change quite frequently. They'll be harder to notice that they change. It won't be so drastic until we close down the croissant shop and open up the next business that they're going to open up, which is my favorite business. But that's when the credits end. The credits will change then. The song will stay the same, but the versions will just get better and better.
I'm confused. I can't believe there's a business that you prefer to a croissant shop.
I mean, imagine
maybe
a business that sells all kinds of candy that you could ever want.
Okay.
Has a excellent record section where you could buy the latest Oingo Boingo. There's calendars in the window of hunky men that are like local that you could like find and be like, you're hunky and in my calendar. There's sometimes a mime performs in the window and there'll just be extravagant like art everywhere. Yeah, I believe they oh man, I wish I could remember this. They get the exclusive line of some woman's clothing line, a famous woman that you wouldn't expect has a clothing line. I wish I could remember that. But anyway, point being,
Olympia Dukakis?
Yes, it was Olympia Dukakis's blazer line that they sold. It was and neon as far as the eyes can see, and don't you worry, Mrs. Garrett has a small counter where she still sells her baked goods.
Great. I was so worried about it. You could
and George Clooney everywhere. He's touched every surface of the place.
With his because he's the mime?
Oh, he is the carpenter.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, so but like we're getting ahead of ourselves because we've just got to Edna's Edibles.
I don't even know. I don't at this point I don't know where I am. So you're already describing a new planet for me.
That's true. Let's back up.
Also, what's fascinating about this is why not drop in Pamela Adlon into the credits next week?
Yeah.
But also, why not do the credits like during the first episode where it premiered, or at least the last one because of the Gamma Gamma situation? Why not have Edna's Edibles in the credits in that one?
I don't think they had enough footage.
Fair enough. That's true.
There's a lot of stuff that's to come. That's in the opening credits that hasn't happened yet. And there's also I forgot what I was going to say about this, but yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Let's open the show in the living room.
Yeah, in the dark.
Yeah, it's dark. It's romantic. It's late.
I'm not sure if it's romantic. It feels like someone didn't turn the lights on or pay the electric bill. It doesn't feel romantic.
Well, I mean, they're trying to have a clandestine thing, so they don't want to turn on the lights and alert the snoops.
That's true. The snoops. But
Joe is there with a man, and honestly, in the dark, it kind of looks like the beginning of a gay porn.
It does. Especially because as soon as they start making out, all I can hear is the squeaking of his jacket.
He does have a very squeaky jacket. That is William Ogden Smith IV.
Yeah.
As mentioned. But his parents call him Peter Nelson.
Normal.
Yeah. Peter got a start in the 1982 war drama Purple Haze. He was on the original V miniseries. Then he did this. This is his third credit. He does a Newhart. He does the sequel to the V miniseries, V, The Final Battle. He was on the TV series The Paper Chase. And then, for some reason, he was in all the Eight Is Enough reunion movies. So I'm assuming that he married one of the 8.
I guess.
That's my guess. But yeah, so he did those. And I was surprised there was more than one. He did a Miami Vice. He did Die Hard 2.
Oh.
He was Commander Cox in Sharktopus.
Is that the porn we're watching with in the living room right now?
I was like, do I have porn on? Sharktopus. He created the Comedy Central cartoon series Trip Tank, which I had never heard of, but lasted 2 seasons and was like filled with all these famous comedians doing voices.
Oh, wow.
So that was his thing. He showed up as a museum curator in a movie that came out this year called The Apprentice. So he's still doing shit. Peter Nelson, shout out. Hope you're listening. Anyway, back to this romantic scene. She thanks him for the movie, and he says he's really glad she liked it. And she's like, I did not like it.
As I said, the way that Blair reacts to having acquired a new boyfriend is outright hostility.
You mean Joe?
Sorry, Joe. But outright hostility. Like it's
I'm all for a woman or a man to say, I did not enjoy that movie on a date.
Sure.
You should be allowed to say your opinions, even if they are different from the person you're with. However, they got all the way home and did all the making out. And then she's like, yeah, I didn't like that movie. It didn't come up once.
Well, also the fact that she didn't, so presumably, so let's just give a brief overview of this episode, is that Joe has acquired this new boyfriend, seemingly without asking him a single question about him at all. She knows nothing about him.
Well, his family is white collar.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, what else do you need to know? You're a college student. You're cute. You fuck good. Your name is Bill Smith.
I feel like if you are even a moderately okay conversationalist, you might go beyond, you're a student here? Do you want to go to the movies? My parents work white collar jobs. If
no one is calling Joe a moderately good conversationalist.
If someone said to me, to the question, oh, what do your parents, what's your dad do? What's your mom do? Does she work? They work in white collar. I would be alarmed. I wouldn't.
Well, if you phrased it that way and then said it that way, yes, they work in white collar. If they're like, oh, they're white collar, nothing exciting, I'd be like, all right, yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But also, like, it's not like I care so much that I'm like, no. What do they do? I probably wouldn't pursue it. Anyway, they kiss.
Yeah.
Tries to send him off. He whines that it feels like he's dating a married woman because they've been dating 3 weeks and he still hasn't met her roommates.
Really?
I don't think he'd be so eager to meet her roommates if he met a roommate.
I literally wrote down, there's a line, he says, if I'm okay and you're okay, is it your friends that are weird? And I wrote down, yes, Bill, run. Get out of here. Get the hell out. Don't bother. These people are they're psychotic.
Yeah, I mean, they are weird. But it's also weird that he's like, I want to meet your roommates. It's like clearly so late that all the lights are off. This isn't going to be the time. You want me to wake them up? This isn't the time to ask for this. Is conveniently, it shouldn't come up this time, for Joe. But no, he wants to bring it up. Like, could we reserve a time to meet these roommates? So strange.
Well, no. So as I think that there's something to be said around the notion that, if someone is hiding you from their friends, it means that they're embarrassed by you. And it means that they're not committed.
You're making me take stock of so many relationships I've had. Yeah. It is very weird. But anyway, he tells her he's housebroken. As if this is incentive to go wake up the girls. And he goes on with this I'm a dog metaphor for so long. He's like, I don't chase cars anymore. Isn't he so charming?
I
He
mean,
does. I will say he does seem like a step up from the last love interest that the Messinas wrote for us.
well, yes, he does. He also can act. I didn't mind any of this. I thought he was sort of cute.
No,
And
he's fine. He's fine, but he was like too cute with the dog things. In my opinion, I was like, stop it. I'm over you now.
bad. No.
Bad dog. He flat out asks Joe, what is it you like about me?
Again,
Is this a thing you can say on dates? Because I would say it every date now.
yeah, you can say that. But also, I do think the thing is that I feel as though, as we were pointing out, that the Messinas wrote the last boyfriend for Blair, who was developmentally different. Maybe a little bit of that has bled into Bill Smith because he's acting weird. You can't just be like, why do you like me?
I mean, you can.
Tell me reasons why you like me. Now, also wake up your roommates. I need to meet them.
It's strange. It's a little bit strange. But anyway, it mostly Joe is like, I'll happily tell you what I like about you, and it's that you are not rich, not a preppy, not wealthy, not, monetarily well off. Like just like, literally like just saying the one thing that we do learn about him.
Well,
is,
also, she says, you're not. Well, also the other thing is that, like, in this episode, apparently Joe loses the ability to be polite and have any manners at all.
I mean, it's not loses the ability. She's working on being some kind of character. It's not like I let myself go. I can't help but be this asshole. It's like she came up with the script. She's like, I'm gonna amp up my voice. I got my costume on. It was very intentional. She could help herself.
That's later, but in this scene, she also
in this scene
is a dick because she compliments him in the worst way possible. She basically negs him. She's like, you're not like all those other Langley guys. Your jaw moves when you talk.
You know whose jaw doesn't move when she talks? Selena Gomez in Only Murders in the Building.
Well, that's because of those marbles that she's got in there that she can't let out.
I'm fascinated by the way she talks, but I'm cool with it. Anyway, now that it's been established, they're both quality people.
Yes.
And he brings it back to the roommates. Your friends are weird. And she's like, yeah, they are, which I appreciated.
Again, here's the thing. I don't think I've ever not had a weird roommate, including my husband.
Including my cat, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing, is that someone that you live with is usually kind of weird because they see you doing things and you see them doing things that, most people tend to not see one another doing.
I would say that I think in every roommate situation, except for one, I was the weird one. I will say one time I dated outside my weirdness bracket. And he was weirder than me. But otherwise, everybody I lived with, I was the weird one. Anyway, she says she really likes him, but she stops herself, and so he fills in the blank. And she's like, you really lusted after me in your heart? It's a very strange thing.
Yeah. The words are odd.
What was that?
The words he says are weird in this scene.
Yeah, they really are. She stops herself, and so he fills in the blank with lusted after in your heart, and she laughs, and she finally says the L word. Not lesbian. She doubles down by saying she likes him a lot.
Yeah.
And they briefly exchange tongues. He reminds her of their dinner date tomorrow, and off he goes. Nice, brief scene.
With his squeaky jacket and all.
Yes, he squeaks away into the night.
here's the thing. It was so loud. It was though the boom mic was like, it was like, we got to pick up the squeaks, okay? Azad was like, we got to make sure everyone knows that this rich guy is wearing a leather jacket.
The squeakiest jacket we could find. So now we're in a new scene.
Yeah.
And Blair is shaking her pom-poms in the middle of the store, begging Joe to go to a pep rally that we all know Joe would hate.
Yeah.
She says she's pepped out, but I don't recall Joe ever being pepped in.
No.
Meanwhile, in the back, baby Pamela Adlon is shopping with her face away from the camera.
Yeah.
At one point, it looks like she takes a pickle out of a barrel and just eats it. We never get a good look at what she's doing, but I like to think these were early signs of her improv prowess.
So, you're gonna have to just give me a little bit of like, I guess a preview, right, of Pamela Adlon in this show. So, I mean, from my impression, she's a little scamp. You know, she's a sasspot who is kind of a foil for Joe.
She's like a young lesbian that looks up to Joe as like the lesbian icon that she's actually become in the world. Kelly Affinado is kind of like the lesbians of the followers of the Church of Joe.
I see. So that's why she was stealing that giant tube of snails.
Yes, we will get into this, but yes, kind of honestly, it'll all come out eventually. It's like I just did it so you would notice me. I'm pouring myself some iced tea if you're wondering what my arms are doing. Yeah, so she's one of many failed attempts to integrate the cast. They only really successfully do it once, and that is with Patty Duke and John Astin's son, not Sean Astin.
Not Sean.
Not Sean.
Is that his first name?
Mackenzie.
Not Sean?
Not Sean.
Not Sean Astin. Yeah.
Mackenzie, star of the Garbage Pail Kids film.
Yes. I mean, I can see, isn't there a Garbage Pail Kids thing right behind you right here, or is that?
There is. I don't know that it'll be in the video, but it is all the way to the side. Yes, when the one boy from Facts of Life is the star of the Garbage Pail Kids movie, and you are 7 years old, it is an event you will remember for the rest of your life.
Of course.
Anyway, so Blair continues to whine about how all Joe does is study, but she really wants to know what's going on when she's at the library. Oh, sorry, she really knows what's going on when she's at the library all night. And Joe panics. She's like, oh, shit. You know about the pussy I've been eating?
Yeah, in the library.
Blair's like, you're just hiding out at the library for fear of being rejected. Gives such a weird line reading on that.
It was also so obnoxious.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, and again, I get like when Natoots are like, when they dig for information. Blair is coming at this in a more insulting way. She's basically assuming that Joe has no friends and sucks, which is why she needs to go to the pep rally, because she makes the assumption that Joe has low self-esteem.
Well, as a former psychopathic ragamuffin,
yes, she would know.
She would know. Well, Joe is just now antisocial and messy, which is an upgrade from psychopathic ragamuffin, which is what Blair described her as. What the fuck, guys? Also, yeah, did you notice this? This drove me nuts. And I don't think we're going to see this a lot on the show, because I was like, what? They kept the door that goes to their living room wide open in Edna's Edibles.
I didn't notice. But the other weird thing that I did notice is they seemingly always have like a cast of 1,000 in Edna's Edibles at all times.
No, only when they need to do a big bit, like everybody's staring at them. Otherwise, there's usually just one or maybe two. But yes, if there's a bit, like if it's like, oh, Blair has to run the shop all night one night without anybody, it will be crazy. But for the most part, it's usually just one guy, one girl, whatever. Yeah, no, it was busy today. Um, but yes, at this point, it's not that busy. At this point, we just have Kelly Affinado stealing some snails. But I can't get over it. It's like you broke the facade of the fact that you're not in a store. You're actually attached to somebody's. There's a house right there. Like that's so weird to me.
Well, yeah, it is weird. The whole
The
set.
setup is weird, but I've accepted the setup through life. But if you're gonna like open the curtain and just reveal that, like, Natalie's sitting there with her hand in her sweatpants, eating some cake on the couch,
Floor pop.
and
Yeah.
it's a little disconcerting. I just felt like it was odd, and they should close that door. And I don't think that door stays open very much. I mean, people go in and out of it, but I don't think it ever is propped open like that. But Jo is not concerned with exposing her personal living quarters. She's more concerned about this bitch stealing her Danish butter cookies. Let's talk about Kelly Affinado finally. She's played by Pamela Adlon, back then Pamela Segal. She is what I consider to be the Scrappy Doo of Facts of Life.
Okay.
She is I love her as an actor.
Yeah.
Writer, comedian, shout out Cousin Jerry. But I hate her on this show. I hate her so much on this show.
Isn't she part, I mean, hasn't she started acting when she was like a really little kid. Isn't she part of like royalty?
I believe so, yes. I believe she's part of the Segals.
But she's career. She's been acting since she was like, 4, and she's still she's producing her own show, so it's like
no, she's doing good. She got her start in Grease too.
Still haven't seen it.
Really? I still think it's better than Grease 1.
I'm sure it is. It has a huge, cult following.
It's just extremely pleasant.
I can't get my husband to watch Grease 1. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that if we just watch Grease 2, you'll be able to follow.
There's almost no characters are the same. It's like Pinky.
And I was like, you really want to give up watching Michelle Pfeiffer be hot? I don't understand. What's going on here?
I don't know. I mean, he likes the apple. I feel like he would like this.
Yeah.
But anyway, she'll be on this for 12 miserable episodes.
Whoa. Just being a shoplifter?
Yes, that's all she does. She just shoplifts every week. She will be on Night Court, The Jeffersons, 3 episodes of ER, the CBS Elliot Gould sitcom starring George Clooney and Mary McDonnell, not to be confused with the NBC Juliana Margulies drama starring George Clooney and Mary McDonnell.
That's
also called ER.
Yes, there were 2.
Yes, and they both had George Clooney and Mary McDonnell.
And George Clooney was on this show as well as Pamela Adlon. So this is like this insane Venn diagram of who has passed through the Facts of Life.
Yes, right after this, she will do a feature film called Willy Millie, which came out in 1986, where she wished upon a star that she could have a cock.
Yes.
And then she got a cock. She woke up the next morning with a big fat cock.
How old was she when she made this film?
She is exactly this age. Like, I think that they were made at the same time.
9, 10,
12, 13.
Okay, so at that point, she does know what she's going to be doing with that dick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not like she's just like, it's mysterious and she's 6 and it's like, well, now I don't know what this thing is between my legs. It's like,
once she gets that cock, she doesn't look any different. Once she gets that cock, all of a sudden girls are like, hey, what's up, Willie?
Ooh, and was the reason for this desire for the penis because she just really wanted to piss standing up?
I believe it was something like, girls can't do that. She was like, I wish I was a boy. Like that. Yeah. Anyway, it's on YouTube. Everybody pause this podcast and go check it out. Willy Millie, 1986. You'll find it. Whole movie, one video. It's gobsmacking. Anyway, she never stopped working, but once she linked up with Louis C.K., that's when she really started to make a name for herself. She played his wife on the sitcom Lucky Louie. on HBO, which I was a big fan of, and she appeared on Louie. And she was, of course, in everybody's favorite film of 2017, I Love You, Daddy. She's been starring on her own show, Better Things, since 2016. She also won an Emmy for her voice work. Interestingly, about her voice work, she was on Bobby's World and Bob's Burgers and played Bobby Hill on King of the Hill.
Wow, a lot of Bobs.
Whole lot of bobbing going on.
So the other thing that we should mention is that she was also on Californication with
That's right.
David Duchovny. She plays his agent's coked out wife. And in the first season, she is just an amazing train wreck. Just like they're blowing rails constantly, like while their children around. She's just a mess. It's just like a wonderful thing to watch her just be just an insane person, because she's like, 6 inches tall and very aggressive.
Yeah, that sounds good. So anyway, Joe confronts the little hoodlum.
Yep.
And pulls a tube of unrefrigerated escargot out of her jacket.
Yes. So let's pause. So it's about, I would say, 2 feet tall?
I would say it's probably like 1.5 feet.
Okay. It's transparent plastic. Says, escargot on it. And it's just a huge thing of giant snail shells.
Yes. They're in there. They're in the shells.
It's like sort of alarming to think about why Mrs. Garrett decided to stock that, but also what this little girl was planning on doing with them.
That is true.
Which is, to be perfectly frank, the funniest thing that happens in this episode. When she pulls that giant tube of snails out of her little vest, I was like, okay, this girl's going someplace. I like this. And I was like, I hope she made this choice herself.
Maybe she's trying to sell them on the black market. Maybe she's trying to keep them as pets. Maybe she can rehydrate them and they'll just come out of their little shells and be her friend.
Yeah, maybe.
I do not know how snails work, but I was surprised that they can be sold unrefrigerated in a tube. But I looked it up, and Walmart sells the very same tube for $10.
Wow. I mean, no one ever said that snails were, extremely expensive.
Yeah, I thought they'd be way more expensive, but back in 1983, $10 is $3.64.
So, why is she stealing such cheap stuff? And she was also stealing marinated baby corn.
Yes. It's possible that Mrs. Garrett was also selling them for like $10-15. Like, I don't know what the markup is to get escargot to peak skill. I'm sure Walmart cuts quite a deal to get a lot of snails. I don't know how it works. Anyway, Blair freaks the fuck out. This is the first time she's ever been confronted with a criminal, excluding sex offenders, of course. She goes to call the cops, but Joe slows her roll.
Yes.
Joe knows a budding lesbian when she sees one.
Yeah.
So she pulls several other dildo-shaped items from Kelly's jacket, including a very impressive baguette.
Yes, it was an impressive baguette.
Mm-hmm. She tells Kelly that she could call the cops, but she's not going to, because she'd rather start the grooming process immediately.
Yes.
Getting her ready for induction into the Lesbian Olympics or whatever. Blair's incensed, and not incest. Blair's incensed. But Joe lets her go with a warning. Really, she does that patented Joe thing where she tells her to go kill herself.
Yeah.
Go stand in front of a bus. Pulls some marinated baby corn out of her pocket, as you said, and Kelly scolds Joe for not having normal foods that had his edibles.
So, to be perfectly honest, so the snails did throw me through a little bit of a loop, because that's not a normal thing that I feel like Mrs. Garrett was shitting her pants 2 weeks ago, having to make a quiche. She can't boil an egg when Mr. Parker is, She
can't make enchiladas without Don Ho's help.
Right. And so I do think that snails would be a little ambitious, but perhaps, the peak skill consumer is that they look for that as a sign.
She ain't cooking them. She's just selling them. Blair is really Oh yeah, Blair thinks this proves her point that Joe has evolved.
Yeah.
4 years ago, she would have put Kelly's face in a blender, but now she just tells her to kill herself.
Yeah, that's an improvement.
I guess it seems like the same Joe to me because that's been kind of Joe's thing for a while.
To tell people to kill themselves.
Yeah.
To,
Blair.
to encourage suicidal ideation.
I mean, you said it. Blair is really hell bent on getting Joe to this pep rally.
Yeah.
She starts whining her ass off to the point where Toots comes in, and Tootie's like, "What the fuck are you whining about?" And Tootie's like the queen of whining.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. There's never an answer as to why it was so important to Blair.
But it's also what's weird is that it's like, so Blair's like, you need to come with me to this. You need to come with me to this pep rally. And which again, never really explained. It's not like she's like, well, your nose is in the books. You're never going to meet a man. Like, you're not going to have, I guess she does say something about how, like, maybe she is missing, like, crucial college experiences or something because she's got her, she's always in the library. And so, like, but Joe's kind of blowing her off. And then the Toots come in. They seemingly have all the information. Tootie is like, she's like, why are you doing this, Blair? Like, fuck off. And Natalie's like, she's like, well, because she's always in the library, Tootie. And Blair's like, and Natalie's like, library? My foot. And it's like, don't you all sleep in the same room?
That is a question I've had quite a few times, and we'll have once more in this episode for sure. Yeah, they know the real. She's not been hanging out at the library. She's been hanging out at the Bangberry. Joe actually, Natoots have deduced that Joe puts the lie in the library because they closed at 10.
Yes.
But she was past midnight, and there was a very suspicious popcorn kernel in the pocket of Joe's sexiest blazer.
Well, they whip it out like it's like in a little Coke baggie. And It's like, what? I was like, what is that? It's white. And I was like, is that what she was doing with Bill Smith? No, and then they like hold it up like evidence, like little creeps.
They should have made it yellower. Anyway, Nat demands to know the man behind the popcorn while Joe fiddles with a fruit pie.
Yeah.
And yes, it is Orville Redenbacher.
Huh. Well, also, so Natoots are like, I think it's Natalie because it is the sort of annoying thing that Natalie would say. It doesn't sound like something that Tootie would say. She goes, if you look closely, it's the type commonly sold in the movie houses. I wrote down, what year are we in? What's going on here? Also, why couldn't they give Natoots anything else to do? Tootie barely has any dialogue. I'm surprised she showed up.
True. Anyway, let's talk about Orville Redenbacher.
Okay.
The man behind the corn.
Please.
Do you know much about him?
Nothing. Aside from his face on my popcorn jar.
Well, that was me also until today. So Orville Redenbacher started his career selling popcorn on his family's farm, which is where he developed the passion, I guess. But he was a businessman, and his real business was selling fertilizer for a really long time. But he dabbled with popcorn in his spare time because he loved it so. And in 1970, he had found, after years of experimenting, he opened up a company called, I forget what it was called, something hybrids. I didn't put that in my notes, but he opened up a company that spent years developing the perfect popcorn kernel, basically just for fun. Like, he just loved popcorn. He wanted that perfect hybrid of corns to create the perfect pop, and he found it. And once he found it, he was like, holy shit, we have to sell this. So he actually he's kept the popcorn industry alive by creating this popcorn kernel that almost everybody uses to this day.
Wow. I'm impressed.
And back in the mid 70s, he actually had a third of America's popcorn business. And this was only in like 5 years from having created this kernel to getting it out there, and it just grew from there. And his signature look, bow tie, horn rimmed glasses, led people to think he was an actor like those Bartles and James phonies. Yes. Bartles and James are not who you think they are.
Oh God, who are they?
I don't know. But Orville Redenbacher is Orville Redenbacher. So he had to go on talk shows and shit and be like, no, I'm really me. I invented corn.
He didn't invent corn. He perfected popcorn.
Yes, he perfected popcorn, which is why everyone loves him so. And now you know.
Great.
Anyway.
Maybe some popcorn tonight.
You know what? I got popcorn because of reading about him. I was like, I could use some popcorn. And I ate it. And it was delicious. So thank you, Orville. Nat wants to get some cold, hard facts about who Joe is fucking. And Tootie wants some juicy details.
Yeah.
Joe's having none of it when William Ogden IV arrives. And Joe's like, you want something juicy? How about this fruit pie I've been awkwardly fiddling about with for 20 minutes? It was all for this. So
yeah.
You want something juicy? Anyway, not worth it. But Natoots go off to help Blair because she doesn't want to bite your head off when you try to invade her personal space like Joe does. And I'm sorry, but help Blair with what? They're like, let's go help Blair. Blair's plot is wanting Joe to go to the pep rally. So is that what you're going to go help Blair with?
I suppose so. Maybe to, untangle her pom-poms from one another.
I mean, they work at a store. There are actually a handful of customers in the store right now. None of them are trying to steal stuff. You might as well work there. But Natalie's clearly thirsty for this guy, so she waits around and ogles him.
They're the only employees. And Mrs. Garrett is not there. She's at her fucking aerobics class. I don't understand who's running the shop. If Blair are leaving because it's like, we got to go help Blair, deal with her desire to go to the pep rally. And then there's Joe, dealing one case with the shoplifter and then second with her boyfriend, handing him a fruit pie. But it's like, no one is doing anything.
No, I know. It's bizarre. And I was very used to it as a child, but now as an adult, I am like, work.
Yes.
Anyway, Nat ogles Ogden. Leads nowhere, but it does happen, and finally and inexplicably she leaves to go help Blair. So this gets Joe alone with Bill.
But don't they kind of leave because I think Joe kind of gives off the like, get the fuck out of here vibe. Like,
she was like, I'm not going to give you juicy details. And they're like, we'll go help Blair because she's not a dick. And the shoes come back in, right? Like they kiss, Joe and Bill, and Jill, Bo. It doesn't matter. They don't, even though they end up together at the end of this episode, you will never see this man again.
What the hell?
There will be men that stick around, but boys are disposable in the Facts of Life universe for quite some time. I believe the first one who's going to get a steady is going to be Tootie. And I think she's going to get it this year, and he will last for the rest of the series.
Wow. Wait, what happened to your favorite, the delivery guy, Ron?
Roy.
I
believe Roy has one more episode.
Okay.
I think he comes back as a surprise, if I'm not mistaken. I think one time. Okay. Anyway, so when the coast is clear, they kiss. Natoots comes back in because Blair is loading the dishwasher, and I guess that's what she needs help with. And she's doing it by color for some reason. Then this means that Natoots can't help for some reason. So instead, they've returned with props for some reason. Tootie's got a basket of food for why, and Natalie has some school books. What just happened on the other side of the store for literally 1 second? They walk in. Blair's like, I'm sorting the dishes by color. Get away from me. And take those books in that basket.
Like, they literally could have just... Because the thing is that Joe would have... presumably, Joe, the character, would have felt too self-conscious to kiss her new boyfriend in front of the prying eyes of Natoots.
Of course.
And so they needed to get them off stage. However, they could have had a better excuse. Like,
a better reason to go, a better reason to come back, and any reason at all for their props.
Hey, Tootie, can you help me unload the baguettes that were just delivered by Roy? Yep, be right there with you. Quick
Nice Roy
swoop,
shout out. I like the way you're thinking.
then everyone's back in action.
Yes. Well, anyway, to cover for their clandestine romance, Joe forces Bill to order 2 croissants to go, just as Mrs. Garrett enters the store looking like a vision in red, wearing red sweatsuit, red lipstick, red hair, just a mess of red on my TV screen. I think her scarf was like orange,
Pink.
pink. It
It
didn't
wasn't a
look
scarf.
good.
It was a towel. It was her workout towel.
Oh, yes, that's right. What? It's just walked home with that around her neck.
It's just she was glistening up a storm.
Oh, yeah.
Because I got into such a rhythm with the waist twists, I almost screwed myself into the floor. Again, Mrs. Garrett also gets insane, weird shit to do in this episode that's almost nothing. Like
Yes.
she goes to aerobics class. Then she decides that she's like, I need to go to the auction to get these milk jugs. I need my antique milk jugs.
She's never wanted anything more, honestly.
It's
So
so
Mrs. Garrett
right.
pats herself down with her pink towel.
Yeah.
And then Tootie grabs the other end of the towel and helps pat down the rest of her face and neck. They're like both using the same towel. It's so weird.
It's gross. Also,
It happens for like a split second before the camera turns away because the camera's like, I don't want to see this.
see, the thing to describe it for people who are just listening, it's as though Mrs. Garrett is Rocky, and she is back in her corner being helped by her coach.
Yes.
Burgess Meredith, played by Tootie, is now squeezing water in her mouth and wiping her face down, and
Burgess Ramsey.
and fixing the giant welt in her eye.
Yes, but also Rocky is also using the other side of the towel to dry the other side, and it's so weird. It's so strange.
So, typical Azad Kalata direction. Just what?
Just grab the other side of the towel, Kim.
Do something.
Anyway, Joe hands Bill his croissants to go, tries to rush him out of the store, but Mrs. Garrett, she just can't keep her red mouth shut. She's like, did you guys enjoy the movie last night? Now, the Toots have...
They've got cold, hard facts.
Yeah, they've got a face to go with the corn.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett, Mrs. Garrett, not the marinated baby corn. This is a corn heavy scene.
Very corn heavy.
They were like we're gonna mention corn in 2 different ways, 2 different preparations in this scene. Mrs. Garrett does her best to cover. She does a real sorry.
Maybe it's like, can we get maybe some corn bread, corn on the cob, corn soup, corn fritters.
Mrs. Garrett tries to cover. She does a really shitty job, but apparently she went to the same movie with Joe and Bill last night. Scandalous.
Yeah.
Nat guilts Joe. It's such a coincidence. It's obnoxious.
Was it Deep Throat? Was everyone watching Deep Throat together?
It did win a couple of Oscars, whatever movie it was that they saw. So I would say, yeah, probably. Nat guilts Joe for making Mrs. Garrett lie for her, and Joe relents and finally introduces everyone to her friend Bill.
I know.
They all do handshakes, and then Mrs. Garrett becomes Russian for a second.
Yes.
You wanna tell us?
So 2 things.
Mrs. Garrett doing a Russian. Can you do that?
Yes. So 2 things happen. So as you said, so Joe finally is like, all right. Like, this is Bill, like Tootie, Natalie, Mrs. Garrett. And then it's like, and he's like, oh yeah, I've heard a lot about you. And then Tootie, like a fucking psycho, to a stranger, a man she has never met, says, we've heard nothing about you. Which again, does nobody have manners in this show? Also, the other thing is, and which we've covered before, it's as though privacy is offensive on this show. Like Joe keeping the fact that she has this burgeoning new relationship a secret from these 2 little idiot girls, as though that's bad. That's a bad thing that she's doing.
I mean,
That's
you're supposed to be honest with your friends.
but even with a brand new relationship where you're not sure where it's going yet.
3 weeks in Facts of Lifetime is an eternity.
True. Even though he's like, tell me how you feel about me. Tell me what you enjoy about my personality.
None of this.
Yeah, so
Garrett goes, oh, sorry.
And Mrs. Garrett's like, she's like, what help for then? They have ways of making you talk. and I feel like everyone involved in that scene was like, what's happening here?
It was so weird and slow, and it just didn't work.
I think that everyone was like, was that in the script?
Like her being funny? And Azad was like, it's gold, keep it. This is why I became a director.
Yes.
Mrs. Garrett goes upstairs to change, nationalities. And Natalie starts grilling him with many questions, telling him to answer any two, which I enjoyed. They just ignore her, and he tells Joe about dinner tonight. Toots hover on either side of him. Tootie interjects. My favorite part about this episode is my biggest laugh. Is he goes, oh, about dinner tonight, and then Tootie goes, oh, you're taking her to dinner tonight? Sounds good. Again, like, that is the level of what they give Kim Fields for this episode.
I know. It was shocking. That's the thing, is that I was like, that's why I said earlier, why did she even show up to work?
I'm glad you approved, Tootie.
Like, you're taking her out to dinner? Cool. Food is nice. Like, it was just sort of, like, most times, and we pointed this out on About Facts of Life, it's like, they're always like, we need to stretch. This episode's only 12 minutes long. So everyone just say whatever comes to mind first.
Yes. Well, he tells Joe his parents are in town. If she wants to reschedule, which I would say, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
But she's like, no, I'd love to meet your parents.
Which is incredibly uncharacteristic for Joe.
It is.
To meet new people?
I know. She must really like this guy.
That she knows nothing about?
She thinks she does. Dad has to chime in. Meeting the parents. Good.
Again, we're going to stretch.
Yeah, but at least this one is like, I get that. And it went faster than Tootie's. Oh, you're taking her to dinner tonight? Sounds good. I still like I can't get over that. It's so weird. It's not as weird as when Tootie wiped Mrs. Garrett's face, but it's weird. Anyway, a little concerned. Bill says he's going to pick them up, and then he can meet them at La Petite Moulin, which translates to the Tiny Moulin.
Tiny Moulin, the Chinese heroine who led her troops to victory. Moulin.
But among the blades of grass, because they were so tiny. Tootie approves of the time. Excellent. Bill says, Bill sees exactly, I think, at this moment, why Joe was like, I don't want you to meet my friends. It's like, oh, it all makes sense.
Yeah, she was like, I was trying to shield you from these idiots and this string conversation that we're now having.
And he says, all future messages will be sent in code. But he says it so sad and like disappointed and grossed out. It's very strange.
He's like
not the right line reading.
And like, I think he has the bag of the croissants and he's just like, so after this incredibly awkward, bizarre conversation that I've just had with these, I guess you're 13 and 14-year-old roommates, whoever the fuck these weirdos are, all messages will now be sent in code. Should I don't know what to. And then he just leaves.
He does. But with just enough time for Blair to catch a glimpse.
Because what was she doing? She was loading that dishwasher for so long, but she did catch a look at Bill Smith's ass. And she was I know a William Ogden Smith IV from those buttocks.
I could have recognized him just from the hole.
Exactly.
Yeah, she does do a double take, and then Tootie fills Blair on everything that she missed in the past 3 minutes because nothing can be private in Peekskill and everything must be repeated. Blair nearly shits herself when she finds out that Joe's dating the William Ogden Smith IV.
Yeah, I
Cats
know.
of the century.
Yeah. I mean, he is.
I mean, compared to who we've seen, I would pick Roy, but he's your catch. I get it.
What What about the guy in the military academy?
Oh, Jimmy Bayo. Yeah,
Yeah,
if I had to pick, I'd
that's
pick
the
Jimmy Bayo.
guy, not Roy.
I mean, if I could get the two of them together in the back of Steve's van, scissoring, you think that's what we do? We scissor?
Yeah,
Um. Anyway, Blair shits herself.
that's
The
how
cat
sex
of the
works,
century.
right? That's how sex works.
Yeah.
Scissor. All
Mhm.
all sex is like this.
Definitely man on man.
Yeah.
There's nothing I like better than feeling a butthole touching
Thigh,
mine.
thigh to thigh.
Yes. Blair can't believe Joe doesn't know who he is, so she fills us all in. The toots, the audience, even Joe. Bill Smith is William Ogden Smith IV, son of William Ogden Smith III, which I know because I read Town and Country.
Yes, of course.
Apparently, Bill's dad is multi-millionaire. This is better than a Harlequin romance. And plot twist, Natalie tells Blair, Joe is meeting the multi-millionaire at the miniature Mulan in mere minutes.
Oh my God. Mamma mia.
Thank you. Thanks for respecting my M's.
But the thing, so Blair basically lays out all this stuff being like, so yeah, they're multimillionaires. I read Town and Country. I can't believe you don't know this. Blah, 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 right? And then
Ambassador and Justice.
Ambassador and a judge, right? But as though, and then of course, like Joe is immediately like, well, he didn't tell me. As though,
goes, why wouldn't he tell me? Maybe it's about that monologue you gave him in the beginning about hating anybody with money.
Maybe it was that, but also as though, I don't know, telling people how much money your family has or what your parents do is something that you should divulge, like, I don't know, your credit score or your AIDS status. It's like, Joe, back up. You don't know this guy that well. It's fine.
Yeah.
He takes you to movies you don't enjoy and you make out.
Mm-hmm. And you put some popcorn in your pocket for later.
Yeah.
So Blair tells Joe to calm down. She's going to Blairify Joe in time for the dinner tonight. New clothes, better hair, tips on small talk, jokes about finger bowls. Blair promises to finally make Joe beautiful since she's such an ugly pile of dog shit.
I know. She says, I'll make you beautiful. I'll make you perfect. I'll make you me. And I was like, you know what? Good. Joe's acting like a fucking asshole this entire episode.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then it gets worse.
It does. So now we have Mrs. Garrett impatiently waiting for Blair to come downstairs so they can get to the auction before all the antique milk containers are gone.
So, yeah.
She whines about this.
The new scene, we're in the living room and Mrs. Garrett is shouting up the stairs. She's screaming at top volume at Blair.
She really cares about this milk bottle situation. I believe that she shut down the store so that because this is a food establishment. It's not even yet dinner time.
Exactly.
All the employees are in the living room. Many of them are going to the milk container auction.
Yep. So this is why I'm confused by this. They could have basically said almost anything else and it would have made more sense. But also, it's not as though Mrs. Garrett is wanting for large receptacles. She's got so many barrels.
She does.
So she's got all the barrels. And it's like, why does she need these milk? What is she going to get? She going to get some cows? She going to start making her own cheese?
I think they just look quaint around the store, I guess. Unless it's like a lot of them.
They could have done. Oh, girls, we need to go to the farmer's market. I need more greens for all the quiche I need to make for Sunday brunch. Makes more sense. Nope. Milk cans at the auction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how you get milk cans, right? They auction them.
But also, she's basically like, yo, 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 we got to get the fuck going because all the good cans are going to be gone by the time we get there with your late asses. We need to go. What's this demand for milk cans?
I obviously it's a big deal because they're auctioning them off. They could have sold them, but no, like the highest bidder is going to get these. They're valuable.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we learned that Blair is upstairs making Joe over. Tootie explains.
Yes.
And then just in time for Blair to exit, heading downstairs like she's a doctor, having finished a successful surgery. We almost lost her when we applied the setting gel, but she rallied. Listen. We saw Joe's date hair earlier this episode. Bitch knows her setting gel. We've seen Joe's hair normal. It's quite flat. But season 5 Joe is floopy all over. She's got all kinds of stuff in there.
But also the other thing is that so, as you said, for apparently, this event, Joe going on this date to meet her new boyfriend's parents, yes, requires Mrs. Garrett to shut down her business. And also because she and the girls are going to this milk can auction.
It's possible that Edna's Edibles closes at like 5.
Whatever, fine. But so the Toots are sitting there and Tootie is doing the exposition, explaining like what the hell's going on. She's making her over. And then for no reason, it's not as though Natalie's looking like is such great fucking shakes to look at. Because she's needlessly cruel. Because Mrs. Garrett's like, maybe she's going to be late for her date. And Natalie's like, Mrs. Garrett, we're talking heavy reconstruction. I was like, ooh, you shut up. Like, get out of here, Natalie.
Like, yeah, that's fair.
Where you were wearing that goddamn Mickey Mouse sweater for 2 years.
You're making good points. I was kind of annoyed at Natalie. I didn't even write this note down because I was like, ugh. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought it up because I did have those feelings as well.
And then
Joe reveal. How many Joe reveals do we fucking get on this show? I feel like there's multiple per season. Joe's in a dress. Everybody watch as she enters the room, and then watch the crowd go.
Yeah. So Blair emerges from the bedroom, presumably, and is basically like removing these giant rubber gloves that are covered in blood and viscera. No, I'm just making that up. Anyway, she's wearing her silly little like cosmetologist robe, that she has got her clips and her hairbrush and all this shit. And she's like, well, it was, the setting gel that was touch and go there for a minute, and then Joe comes out.
Just because this just occurred to me, I envisioned the scene because you said it, such a word picture. It was brilliant. When she throws the little tissues out from her jacket, she throws them into a waste paper basket that's at the top of the stairs, designed to kill someone.
Yeah, it's like, so the stairs come down, they go one level, and then they hit a landing, and then you come down the second one. There's just a big bucket on that landing that, is presumably for garbage, but will definitely kill someone in the middle of the night.
Very weird that it was there.
So Joe emerges, she comes out, and it's like, she's all that. She falls down the stairs and dies at the bottom of the stairs. No, she comes out, she's wearing this, her hair looks big and beautiful like Blair's. She's wearing a very attractive, for 1983, blue taffeta dress and 2 strands of pearls. I would say a little bit too much blush, but for the most part, looks exactly how one should look when you're meeting the parents of your new boyfriend for the first time in
1983.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, so then, Natalie goes, oh, Joe. And Mrs. Garrett goes, Joe, you look gorgeous. And like Joe is visibly uncomfortable and insecure about wearing a garment that isn't between her thighs. And, you know, they're just sort of piling on, making her feel worse. And then Natalie goes, "Oh, Joe," as though like Blair dressed her up for her own funeral. I don't understand.
I think Natalie's like saying, "Oh, Joe, you lost yourself." And I think Mrs. Garrett's saying, "You look beautiful, but you don't look like you." Yeah. And then Tootie is just doing a hyper retelling of Rapunzel.
Yes.
For no reason.
I wrote down that she starts spiraling. Like she's so then you're in the castle, but then they're not going to be able to rescue you. But then you don't have the long hair. You're going to be stuck there forever. And it's like, what's going on? I was like, is everyone?
It was really weird.
Oh,
there's a lot of strange stuff that was happening in this episode. The Messinas, not my favorite Facts of Life writers. But put it out there. This is their last one, their swan song. So all due respect to them, but not my favorites. Blair boasts about turning a pig into a purse, and then makes another finger bowl reference. Points out that Joe's hardly ready for the big leagues yet.
But, you know, she did what she could. And then Mrs. Garrett says, "Go and have fun." And Blair's like weird about it. She's like, she's not supposed to have fun. She's supposed to deceive these people, Mrs. Garrett.
Impress, enchant, deceive.
It's like, are you running a con? What's going on here?
I mean, I think that's good advice, honestly. If you can impress somebody, enchant them, and deceive them into thinking that you're not the piece of shit that you are. Okay. I mean, that's like what dating is, I think.
It's a giant game of deception.
Joe has a bad feeling about this, but Mrs. Garrett's like, "I don't care. Get me to my milk bottles." And Blair insists, explaining, Pennzoil and Perrier, they don't mix. Yeah. She tells her some weird no-nos, like saying shoulda, gonna, or give me a break. Yeah. But what if they're like, I should have set my VCR to record Give Me a Break.
Because I should have set my video
cassette recorder
to tape Give Me a Break.
Give me a break, Nelulus Cauterium.
But
I did a quick Google about Give Me a Break for a second, and for no reason, I can't really think of why, but the penultimate Give Me a Break episode, okay? Yes. The penultimate episode, the description reads like this. Nell is wooed by an African man who invented chocolate chip cookies in his African country. Wow. That's your second to last episode. We got to get all the stories in. We're closing up shop.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to find that episode and watch it tonight.
I might do that too. I have been thinking about that ever since I read that, and I just haven't had a chance. But yeah, that's amazing. So anyway, Joe thinks Blair's going to blow it. I'm sorry. Joe thinks Blair thinks she's going to blow it. No.
So hold on. She goes, so Blair says, "Don't say gonna or shoulda or give me a break or they're going to think you're from the Bronx." And Joe's like, "But I am from the Bronx." And it's like, yeah, okay. So. And then Joe's like, "You think I'm going to blow it?" And then Blair, for some reason, again, everyone is sort of casually cruel. Like, she basically makes the assumption that Joe's like some sort of weird, manner-free animal. She goes, "Don't take your shoes off under the table.
Unless you're going to give Bill a toe job.
And don't pick your teeth with your fork."
That's not even possible.
Well, I mean, technically, I suppose it is, but also...
I guess Madonna could. You have to have a big gap.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's like, I've met on this show Joe's mom. Joe's mom is like the most like Miss Priss, like aspirational type of person. So what? She's a cocktail waitress, right? But she like cares about heirs and making a nice party for her daughter, making sure that her daughter gets to go to Eastland and Langley. We're gonna make it work. So at this point, I was sort of like, no one. So they think that Joe is some sort of weird savage, and then because of this, Joe
They've known her for 4 years.
Joe leans into that.
Yes. That's what we do as people. That's the fact of this life. I don't know if that's how you'd say that, though. She also, Blair says, if they ask you for details about your life, give them mine, which is awful long-term strategy.
Yes.
Joe says she's not Blair, and Blair says she could try to be. Blair's pretty shitty here. But maybe she's just exhausted from the extreme makeover that she gave and distracted by the excitement of the pending pep rally. So I'll give her a pass. Yeah. Blair leaves, and then Joe thinks for a beat. What am I gonna do?
Yeah. And then where are we now?
Oh, we are in the teeny weeny Mulan.
Yeah.
The littlest Mulan. It's very fancy there. Bill is sitting there silently with his folks, like they're having the worst time ever when Joe walks in. Oh my God, wearing her camos.
Oh my God. And
Joe, you're gonna blow this.
No, not only that. So she walks in to this restaurant, Le Petit Moulin, the Little Mill, and
don't you translate it for me? I like it my way.
It's fine. But also, so she comes in, and I think that she, as well as Azad, expected the audience to go when they saw her wearing jeans and a jacket.
Yes.
They were like, and no one was shocked. They were like,
there was like 2 chuckles.
There was like, oh, okay, so she's back in her regular clothes. Then she accosts the maitre d'.
Yes, she sure does.
But
she says, like, I'm with Ambassador Smith's party. And he's like, I highly doubt that. It's like, do you think that she did the research to figure out where Ambassador Smith was going to be dining in Peekskill so she could have a word with him? Well, I don't think that happened.
No, of course not.
But if she was going to go to that effort, she would have put on a nice gown.
Yeah. But also, the other thing is that it's so weirdly sort of short-sighted. If she wants to, like, the best way to kind of infiltrate the, the upper classes who are ruling is to act like them and then blow up the system from within. Don't just show up in your fucking camo, smoking your cigars, being like, fuck y'all. That's
so
not...
this episode has 2 facts of life. So let's talk about the maitre d'.
Okay.
So he's played by Renee Asa. 2 S's, 2 A's. That's his last name. But not in that order. He got a start in the 1973 TV movie The Third Girl from the Left. And after that, he did, again, this is another guy who goes down a very specific route. He did an episode of Cannon, Columbo, $6 Million Man, The Rockford Files, Bionic Woman, then this. He also did a couple of TV movies. His name is Jacques here, according to IMDb. I don't know how he...
Maybe he named it himself.
So he goes from this, and if you think this man does not have range, he goes from this to playing gang member number 1 on the A-Team. Who goes from playing Jacques the maitre d' to gang number 1 on the A-Team? I gotta say, Renee Asa, mad respect.
Yes.
I spent the rest of the 80s doing one-off things like Knight Rider, Simon and Simon, The Love Boat, Hunter, Quantum Leap, Jake and the Fat Man. Again, very specific route. He was in the TV movie Spies, Lies, and Naked Thighs.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it stars Harry Anderson from Night Court and Ed Begley Jr. And apparently it's a parody of spy movies.
It sounds amazing. I'm going to write that down. Spies,
Lies, and
Lies, and Thighs.
Spies, Lies, Naked Thighs. He shows up in Postcards from the Edge.
Oh.
Yeah. He did an episode of The Flash. He was in 976 Evil Part 2. He did a couple of Baywatches. His final role was in 2001 as Sigmund Santini in Off Key. a movie about a trio of opera singers who reunite after 10 years after their tumultuous breakup for a wedding.
Ooh, that sounds horrible.
I'd watch it. Anyway, so Bill comes to break up the fight between Jacques and Joe.
Yes.
And he's like, what's with the getup? Are we at war?
Yeah. No.
She won't tell him. And
She's
she's like, just like you didn't tell me about your millionaire family. Mic drop.
family.
Family.
And then he says, I told you that they were white collar.
You didn't tell me you were the catch of the century, though.
But again, the thing about this is that, this is positioning Joe, like, these are sort of like, they're making it so that these are two things that are equal, right? The fact that he didn't say, my dad is an ambassador and my mom is a judge, and I hang out with the Vanderbilts. And she's like, I mean, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure if you speak and hang out with Joe Polnicek for any amount of time, you're gonna know who she is. So it's not like he was lying to her.
True, but she's putting on an accent. She's upped her accent.
She has.
Anyway, she said she's not going to embarrass him. She's going to be herself, but she's not going to be herself. She's going to be an asshole.
Yeah, I wrote down actively abrasive and shitty. Like, she comes in, she goes, hey, Ma, Pops, what's up?
Yep.
And, like, fist bumps both of them. And then, like, turns her chair around and pops a squat. It's, like, insane behavior.
Yeah, she introduces herself as Joe Polnicek and then says, AKA the original Polish joke.
And then the mom goes, oh, honey, you didn't tell us that she had such a great sense of humor. And I was like, nice one, Mom. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was because she said the word joke, so I can say that. Let's talk about Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
We'll start with Mrs. Smith. She's played by Joan Freeman. She got her start as a child actress in the 50s. She showed up on The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. She was on Father's Knows Best. She played Mary Pennypacker in The Remarkable Mr. Pennypacker.
That sounds good.
The 60s saw her do things like Dr. Kildare and Perry Mason. A lot of one-episode gigs on short-lived dramas that I have never heard of, like Arrest and Trial, Wagon Train, Laramie, and Hawaiian Eye, which lasted for like 5 years and starred Connie Stevens and Robert Conrad, but I've never heard of Hawaiian Eye.
Wow.
Anyway, she recurred as Dr. Sue Lambert on Lassie, so I like that she was a doctor in the 60s on Lassie. Just going to keep qualifying it.
A fan of dogs. That's good.
Yeah. Right before this, she did a Quincy MR. She did Emmy. She did a couple of Chips. Delicious. And right after this, perhaps because of this, she got her most notable role as Mrs. Jarvis in Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Ooh.
Yes. Having made an impact, she basically retired after that. She did a single episode of Hardcastle and McCormick in 85. Then 10 years later, she had this little tiny resurgence where she did an episode of Renegade and an episode of The Commish. And then she was like, you know what? I'm good. She's still alive, rocking it, enjoying her retirement.
I thought she was
more power to her, Joan Freeman.
I thought she was very beautiful.
Yeah, she's very beautiful. I'm just impressed that she was like on Father Knows Best and The Commish, and then was like, okay, I'm done now. I'm going to retire, and is still alive. Great.
But yeah, you were basically saying it's like she started working when it sounds like she was like 6 months old. She has such an incredibly long career.
She maybe sleeps in Tupperware. Then there's Mr. Smith, William Ogden Smith III, to be precise.
Yes.
I'm gonna let Frank Letter's IMDb bio do the talking here, because it was well written, and I'm sure well written by him. He wrote, for someone who only goes to the movie theaters, Frank Letter is a total stranger. It is true that the actor appeared in no more than a handful of theatrical releases: Mr. Roberts, 1955, Tora, 1970, and Private School Ellipses for Girls, 1983. I love Private School for Girls, by the way. Love that movie. But for a TV fan, things are just the opposite. For a letter was cast in all caps nearly all the TV series, films, sitcoms, and specials shot between 1955 and 1991.
Wow.
Yes, that is quite a statement.
It is.
Also, the guy does have over 120 credits, although from 88 to 91, he was only in 2 things. So, I feel like you're boasting a little bit much. And interestingly, he seems to have shared the screen with his TV wife, Mrs. Smith, here on several projects. I'm not going to go through his whole resume, but there's like a ton of projects. Look him up, Frank a letter. Anyway, all right. So Joe decides to break the ice by saying, so, I hear you guys got more money than God. Everybody finds that mildly amusing, and Mr. Smith, to his credit, tries to crack wise about the Lord's financials. But Bill is hating this, and he just shouts, "Cocktails!"
Well, so yeah, that's the thing, is that it's like,
allowed to drink.
I mean, I don't know if I think in 1983, if you're with your parents in a nice restaurant, you can probably drink. I don't know when they raised it to 21, but I also think that if you're with your parents in a lot of states, you can drink if you're with them. Anyway, sorry. But, Joe tries to needlessly be the worst human possible. She inquires into things that you're not supposed to in polite society. It's sort of like
his ability to tap dance.
Well, the tap dancing thing notwithstanding, but it's more like, it's like, when was the last time you had a truly good bowel movement? Like, she was just being aggressively obnoxious to alienate everyone.
Yeah, she asks him if he's qualified to be an ambassador, or at least as qualified as Shirley Temple. Can he tap dance? He only does it at treaty organizations. This guy is rat-tat-tatting with Joe. He has really given her the benefit of the doubt and given her his best lobs back that he possibly could, because he's put in an awkward situation repeatedly, and yet he still finds something slightly clever and quippy to say in response, as clever and quippy as the Messinas can get.
Because he's an ambassador, so he's a diplomat. He knows how to communicate with other people who are being hostile.
Yes. Whereas the wife, the judge, is judging Joe right now.
Not really. She seems sort of like, oh.
No, she does. She seems good. She seems like she's solid. But I mean, like, I think at the end of the day, they're both like, sheesh.
Yeah, because she's
the sex better be
around. Yeah, she's incredibly difficult to be around. So then, so the judge goes, Joe, what does your father do? And Joe says, time. And I wrote down, not anymore. Joe, he's out of prison.
Yeah, but they couldn't have this amazing joke that they're about to have, where the judge says pardon, and Joe says no need. He's been on parole for 2 years. Oh, it was solid. I did giggle. Anyway, sorry, don't judge me. Mr. Smith tries to change the subject. I hear you're from New York, and she's like, no, I'm not from New York, you idiot. I'm from the Bronx. That slum you drive through on your way to the airport, just with your windows down, shooting bums whenever you see them.
I thought, I was like, as someone who actually is from the Bronx, this was written by someone who clearly has never been to the Bronx. I don't know where they're coming from, the Smiths, but you tend not to go through the Bronx if you need to get to the airport. You go through Queens.
You can, though.
You can, but if you're coming from upstate, but I'm making the assumption that the Smiths are Park Avenue types.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
But in any case, the fact that she's like, yeah, I'm not from New York. I'm from the Bronx.
Technically still New York.
Not a single fucking person that grew up in the Bronx would say that they're not from New York.
None at all.
People who didn't even grow up in the city are basically saying they claim that they're from New York. So
if you're from Hoboken, New Jersey, you're from New York.
Oh yeah, no, I'm from New York. I'm from New York. So it's, but she's just like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna use a blah 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 blah. I hate
like
it.
your background blur. Sometimes if you lean back enough, your hair just becomes this poof of blur, and then it comes into focus. It's very interesting. It's a cool effect. Very The Matrix.
Yes.
Bill asks, "What are you fucking doing?" And she's like, "I'm holding up my end of the conversation."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Who do I gotta fuck to get some chow?" And then
Yeah.
Mr. Smith and the maitre d' share a knowing look, and it's like he just said with his eyes, "Please spit in this woman's food." And the maitre d' was like, "I was already gonna do that."
I've already shat in it. It's fine.
Yeah. And we're out of that miserable scene.
And now where are we?
Well, it's the next day.
Oh my God.
We are at Edna's Edibles.
We sure are.
And Natoots is deciding on who's going to ask Joe how the date went. It can't be Tootie, because Joe will pull out her braces with her bare hands. But also, don't they share a room with Joe? Can't they just ask her, how late did that dinner go last night? It didn't seem like they were going to be raging all night long.
Apparently, they were, though.
Because there was no way to talk to the girl that sleeps in your room. Also, like, she's up doing things with bread. Anyway, Blair doesn't want to ask Joe because her taffeta dress was tied up in knots under her pillow, like it was a sign or something. So rude. Blair was just trying to help. Spend so much time putting on your face, giving you a dress, and then you fuck up the dress. She does take it like a champ, though, so props to her. But Joe, come on.
Exactly. I mean, I get, if you feel as though you've, had a bad makeover, that when you look at your face and you're like, I don't really recognize this person, and you wipe it off, okay, fine, right? But to just basically destroy a very nice taffeta dress that your friend lent you seems
You're way higher on this dress than I am, by the way. I have not really voiced my opinion, but you like it better than I do.
It's fine, but again, but I guess it's, oh, Joe, it's like, okay, it's fine. It's like, again, people wear things that they don't particularly feel comfortable in or don't reflect who they are because it's required of the circumstance. What is she going to do? Wear a clown suit? To like her father's arraignment? Like, come on, play the game.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, Joe.
So Joe walks in with a big bag of bread.
Yeah.
And Natalie clears her throat, and Joe jumps right down it, shouting, "I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah.
So that's settled. Don't even clear your throat around Joe today. Bill enters the store in a three-piece suit and a top hat, which I assume he did not rent for this bit. So this is just him having that stuff, which is enough for me to know that Joe is exactly right, that this man is at least a little bit of a rich preppy. If he just has these things at the ready,
yes,
that does say something. And he says, "Hi-ho, cheerio," and pip-pip in a vaguely British voice, and Blair's panties drop to the floor with a loud, wet thud.
Yeah, I wrote, Blair is entranced.
She really was. I mean, good on her. Like, that was just so in character, and it was really funny. Her, like, she just was like,
Yeah, because it was like her eyes went like to, the size of dinner plates, and she was just like, oh my God, a man in a full morning suit coming in here saying nonsense words to this idiot.
Okay, so just for me, the words morning suit are nonsense words.
Yes.
We never discuss things off the pod. We save it so we're fresh here. Yeah. However, you did text me really proud of yourself that you recognized that this was a morning suit and you knew all the things to do with it.
No. So here's the thing. As someone who is from the Bronx, where Joe's like, that's not even part of the city. We're a slum that you drive through and you shoot bums on the way to the airport so that you can't be here with us because I don't know. I was like, okay, I'm already kind of like knee-jerk pissed off at the fact that she's just shitting on the Bronx repeatedly, but also the fact that I am from the Bronx and I immediately knew that that was a morning suit because a morning suit is basically it's just formal wear that you wear during the day to if a monarch is going to be present at an event. So you wear a morning suit if your wedding is during the day. It's just a very conservative, formal way of wearing a tuxedo during the day. Because if you want to have a very formal event, you know, but during the day, you have to wear the one that has gray and it has a waistcoat. But if you wear it at night, it's white tie and it has tails as well. But the top hat is at this point, I think in 2021, optional, but people do enjoy wearing it.
I mean, who wouldn't?
I mean, it's the sort of thing that like you would associate with, it's very British, the sort of thing that like, you know, in like Mary Poppins, the penguins wear like morning suits. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah. So Bill Smith, William Ogden Smith IV, is a wealthy enough person that he probably has 3 sorts of formal wear. He has a morning suit, he's got a tuxedo, and he has white tie. White tie is for evening. Tuxedo is just like, you know, like on 30 Rock when Alec Baldwin's like, she's like, why are you wearing a tuxedo? And he's like, it's after 5. I'm not a farmer, Lemon. You know, it's like, that's just sort of like your casual tux. But anyway, a morning suit is something that you wear because it's formal, but it's for daytime.
I assume that it's like when you eat morning buns that you get at Starbucks.
Yeah.
You would put that on so you avoid getting crumbs on your chest hair.
Anyway, so he's like, Bill Smith comes in and is like, cheerio, pip, pip, hello, because he's trying to like say like, I can put on these dumb airs the way that you fucking do it when you're like, yeah, I live in the Bronx in a box with my jailbird dad, you know? And he's like, well, I'm going to put on like my big formal outfit and come and bother you. Anyway, so then.
I get it. Last night we learned that Joe told Bill's dad that he's personally responsible for the hostage crisis, and then lit up a cigar after dinner.
I was like, so Bill Smith the third is the ambassador to Iran?
Possibly.
And because that was the most, and this was in '83, that was the most recent hostage crisis. You know, when this was written in, you know, recent memory. So Joe is not only, she shits on her new boyfriend's father's ability to extract American diplomats from Iran.
And then lights up a cigar after.
Lights up a cigar. But she's apparently smart enough to know about the Iran hostage crisis, but didn't connect the dots between her boyfriend and that ambassador, Smith.
It's Smith. They made it the most anonymous name possible.
Fine.
And it's not like we have Google.
But we have the newspaper.
So she's just going to go through the newspaper looking for any Ogden Smiths just in case one of them is in the news.
I don't know. I mean, if I learn the fact that my boyfriend is named William Ogden Smith IV, I think, and I knew about the Iran hostage crisis, I think I might put 2 and 2 together.
Well, maybe that's what she did, and that's why she said this.
And then she criticized him?
That was the state she was in last night. Anyway, he makes another finger bowl reference, and then he says it was a perfect evening, and she says, fuck you and your sarcasm, stick to fucking rich debutantes. She walks out of the room. Mrs. Garrett, for some reason, is like, don't go.
She goes, Bill, don't go. And then rushes after Joe into the living room to basically call her on her shit and say, you can't do this anymore. This is bullshit. Knock this shit off. What does she say? Frankly, it doesn't wash anymore.
Doesn't.
If you're gonna act like a weird insecure asshole when you feel lightly challenged by the fact that the new guy that you're boning down with can buy you a Learjet, get the fuck out. You don't deserve him. Shut up.
Yeah, that's fair. Joe says she just gave him a taste of the real her, and Mrs. Garrett, like, that wasn't you. She's like, well, it's what everybody thinks I am. It's like, so? You don't have to satisfy people's expectations. You have to wear an ugly dress, but you don't have to be a psychopath. There is a middle ground.
There is. And the thing is that, like, Mrs. Garrett, like, keeps holding strong. She's like, yeah, you're not that person, and I know it for sure. And she's like, well, why not give him the benefit of the doubt? And she's like, because where I come from, when you give people the benefit of the doubt, you end up face down in the East River. That weird accent happens again. And Mrs. Garrett again is like, knock this off.
Yeah, do you believe Bill's parents are planning on having you killed? I mean, maybe after last night, but what are you talking about?
At this point, I would.
And then she also has Joe's like, it's like they say, you can't take the girl out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the girl. This guy's like, no one says that except maybe you. And yes, she said it before. It's like her whole character bio is that sentence.
Exactly. And then Mrs. Garrett basically is like, stop trying to make fetch happen. Stop this. Knock it off. You can take the girl out of the Bronx. I'm not currently in the Bronx anymore. You know, it's like, we can evolve.
Joe thinks Bill didn't say the truth about himself because he's ashamed of dating someone like her, but no, duh. It's because he kept shitting on wealthy people and preppies and things that make him insecure, you idiot. But anyway, Mrs. Garrett says, why not give him the benefit of the doubt? And she says the crazy thing about how his parents are going to kill. Anyway, Mrs. Garrett says, instead of assuming what he thinks of you, you could ask him, like, you know how he did really awkwardly in the beginning of the episode when he's like, tell me the things you like about me. And so Jill's like, okay, fine. I'll ask him what he's thinking. And she storms back into Edna's edibles and she's like, what were you thinking?
Yes.
He's like, that my jacket's too tight. Oh, hardy har har. Stop being charming. And Mrs. Garrett scolds the toots and says this could be a thriving business if they took the customer's money. Then she shouts at Blair, who's literally taking someone's money to go help with the quiches.
I know.
It's like, stop taking money. Take money. Chill out, Mrs. Garrett. Anyway, Joe asks if there's any other reason other than her past as a Bronx barbarian that made him not tell the truth. He says some bullshit about his past and how people only like him for his money and his status and blah, blah, blah. He points out that she is prejudiced against rich people, making her somehow worse than all the other people that like him because of his three names.
Yeah, but I was like, this is not an equivalence. You know,
I agree.
And you know what that made me think of, which again is played, you know, as a joke because it's, you know, funny. It made me think of, have you seen Notting Hill?
Yes.
There's the scene where Hugh Grant brings over Julia Roberts, Anna Scott, to his best friend's house for dinner because it's his sister's birthday party. The sister who has those insane crazy teeth and those big crazy eyes. And, you know, anyway, it's like, it's this very pleasant, jovial British, you know, birthday dinner. And there's like one piece of brownie left or something. And they have this pretty British game where it's like everyone has to sort of argue about who's the saddest at the table. And then they get to have the last brownie. And so I
would get that brownie every time, bro.
It's like, so like, you know, Hugh Grant is like, well, you know, my wife left me. I run a pretty unsuccessful bookshop. You know, and then like his sister's like, I'm pretty ugly. I have no boyfriend. The best friend's like, I don't know. I have a shit job that I hate. Then the woman who he's married to is like, who's in a wheelchair. She's like, yeah, I'm crippled. We can't have children. And so it's sort of like, well, you know, maybe the one who's in the wheelchair. And then Julia Roberts like, whoa. I don't get to go? And they're like, no. And she's like, come on, I get it. Come on, I get at least I can just make a case for why I deserve the brownie. And it's very amusing because she's like, you know, I've been on a diet for the last 20 years. I've had a very painful surgery on this. Like she makes a case. And then they're sort of like, well, I guess that's pretty compelling. But no, you're Anna Scott. You're Julia Roberts. You don't deserve the brownie. So fuck off. And so it's like, that's what this made me think of, where it's sort of like, you're prejudiced against rich people. And Joe's like, again, no, not the same. No.
Not the same.
Not
That
the
is fair.
You have basically freedom to do anything in the world. And I am scared of going out on a date with you. I don't like
because your parents might have me killed in the East River because I'm from the Bronx, and that's what happens.
Yes. Yeah.
So their fight draws the attention of most of the customers of Edna's Edibles. The most customers Edna's Edibles has ever had.
Or ever.
And probably ever will, except for that one late night when Blair has to do it herself. This is probably the pinnacle of Edna's Edibles' success. And everybody is watching them because, as Natalie explains, it's not often you see a summit meeting between Fred Astaire and Fidel Castro.
Cute.
Going out on a high.
Yeah.
And they decide to go somewhere privately to talk so the rest of the customers can stop looking on. Natalie suggests the park for some reason.
Again.
Like, oh, you could go to the park. It's really nice.
Let's stretch. We need to give some lines to Natalie.
And Bill gets the last word of the episode going, come on, Fidel, I'll buy you a cigar. And he's never heard from again.
So obviously Joe murdered him in the East River.
She just told him to stand in front of a bus, and then he did because he loved her so much.
So I do want to just briefly talk about Fred Astaire.
Okay.
So again, the visual joke is that obviously because he's wearing a top hat, a morning suit, very Natalie dressed, and she's wearing her camo outfit, right? And so, yeah, Fidel versus Fred, right? So I was thinking about Fred Astaire. So first of all, he did wear a top hat a lot because he had a weird hairline. He was balding, but it also made him. He started his entire career as a vaudeville act with his older sister. They were like little kids, like really, really babies. And so they put him in the top hat because it made him look taller. But okay. So anyway, I just wanted to give a tiny little background on Fred Astaire just because it's such a delight. Again, everyone knows who Fred Astaire is. He's widely regarded as the greatest, dancer in film history. But he started dancing with his older sister in a vaudeville act that debuted in 1905 in Keyport, New Jersey. And it was called Juvenile Artists Presenting an Electric Musical Toe Dancing Novelty.
Sounds like a novelty.
Yeah. The other two things, some interesting things is that, so he revolutionized dance on film in two ways, because it's like basically before him, there was a lot of like the Busby Berkeley type stuff where it was like it was being shot from above with like a cast of 1,000. But then basically made it so that it was like you were watching two people dance or him by himself. So that, and also it was shot on film using as few cuts as possible. So that it was basically, he put the camera on a dolly so that you could actually see. It was a very intimate thing to basically be able to watch him dance. But also he made the dance routines integral to the storyline of the films that they were in. And one of the last things I'll say is that his last film that he was in was a film called Ghost Story, which I believe came out in either 80 or 81. And it's it's a sort of not great horror movie, but it features full frontal male nudity.
Oh.
And played a character, an actor, Craig Wasson. Do you know who that is?
No.
So Craig Wasson is not a great actor, but he was in a movie called Body Double with Melanie Griffith, which is famous mostly because there's a lot of sex in that film, but that film features the Frankie Goes to Hollywood song "Relax." So that's, anyway, so the guy that was in this movie, Craig Wasson, was in this movie with Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire, I believe, plays his father. and Craig Wasson falls off of a building fully naked. And if people want to just Google this, there's a GIF of him falling, and you can just see his whole penis, just the whole thing.
If you're gonna do it naked,
yeah, do it naked.
Hope that you would see your whole penis.
Yeah, and the last thing is that Fred Astaire was active into his 80s, and in his late 70s he took up skateboarding, and was an accomplished skateboarder, and received a lifetime membership to the National Skateboarding Society.
Well, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think.
I know.
Yes, I think that's all we have for you this week. Next week, as I had mentioned, we are going to actually meet Tootie's boyfriend for the first time.
Wow.
Yes. And as I said, he sticks with us. I mean, he's not there every episode, but Jeff is the love of her life. And Cousin Jerry comes back for a fun stay.
God, really?
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were done with her.
No, we got a little bit more. Anyway, all right. Until next time, stay faxing, my lovelies, and we'll see you soon. I'm trying. I don't have a good out yet. I need to I mean, we're 5 seasons in. Done almost 100 of these, probably like 85, something like that.
It sounded as though you just said stay faxing. So you're much like which brings up the wonderful feud that Dionne Warwick was having with Aretha Franklin. They had a feud via fax.
Yeah, no, I know about this, of course.
Of course. So everyone stay faxing.
Yeah, stay faxing, my lovelies. We will see you next time. A good night.